So when you first open ZBrush, you'll notice that you have this ZBrush homepage. Go ahead and close that out. We don't need that. Up at the top here is Lightbox. There's a couple ways to hide it. You can hit the comma key, which is located next to the M as in mark key on your keyboard to hide that. Remember, you could also bring it back with the same key. You could also click on Lightbox up here. Notice that I clicked here and it created sort of this a bunch of these little squares. One way to clear that is just hit the control key, and while you're holding the control key, hit N as in Nancy, and that'll clear that out for you. So a couple things I like to do when I first start sculpting is I go up to the top here and I go to document, and I click on double, and I'm going to go ahead and hit yes. And then up at the top here I go to document and I take my range all the way down to 0. In the other video we covered like movement and stuff, so this one we're just going to jump right into sculpting. So I'm going to hit comma and I'm going to bring back my light box. And under brush here, you can see there's a bunch of different types of brushes that we can use that aren't in our normal. You can see recent, these are all the recent stuff I've been working on, projects. What I want to do is I'm just going to go to tool, and I'm going to use this Polysphere ZTL. And I like this one a lot because it makes a sphere that's all four-sided faces instead of a triangle. So I'm going to hit comma to hide that. So the reason I know that this is loaded is because in my tool palettes here you can see that it appears. So I'm going to go ahead and just click my pen down, or you can click your left mouse. And what you'll see now is it went ahead and dragged it out. Now, if you by accidentally drag out more than one, because you're like thinking you can sculpt on it right away, just hit Control and then N as in Nancy again. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that out. And once you have a size that you like, go ahead and hit the T as in Tom key or click on Edit up here. Now you'll notice that your cursor changed to a red cursor and it follows the shape of the sphere. So I'm going to go ahead and hit F as in Frank to center this. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit. In our first project, what we're going to do is create a pumpkin. So it can get kind of disorienting, like if you click over here to rotate and you're not sure where your X, Y, and Z is. So there's this floor here, and make sure that the Y is compressed. So I'm going to go ahead and click that down. You can see that there's my floor. And what I want to do is when I sculpt on this, I want both sides to be symmetrical. So I'm going to undo what I did there by hitting Control Z. And I'm going to press the X key. And the X key will let me turn on symmetry. So let's go ahead and just sort of sculpt out a very generic pumpkin. So what we're going to need is to use, we're going to shape this out so it's a little bit more elongated. And what I'd like to use is the Move Topological brush for that. So I'm going to hit B as in boy or B as in brush to bring up all my brushes. And then what I'll do is I want to isolate all of my move tools. These are my tools for moving geometry. And there's elastic and topological. Topological is my favorite because I use it a lot for facial sculpting. So I'm going to go ahead and hold spacebar down, and that brings up all of my tool palettes and it shows you everything. And one way of adjusting my brush size is by adjusting it here. Another way is if you don't want all that stuff there is to just press S once and that allows you to adjust it. And then yet another way is up here. You can adjust it this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shape this out by pulling it up. I'm going to be very conscious there's other sides to this. And I'm going to pull that off to the side here. And I'm going to go down to the bottom here and just sort of flatten it out like it's been sitting in a pumpkin patch. Alright. Now one trick I like to do is, I'm just hitting spacebar there to adjust my brush size, is in order to get things like, for example, I want to create the indenture at the top of the pumpkin here, is I hold spacebar, bring it down, but as I'm clicking, notice to move in one direction, you first hold the Alt key and then you click on that area and you'll notice now it moves only in one. I can't move it left and right. I can only move it up and down or on that normal. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now let's go ahead and create the striations that sort of surround a pumpkin. So I'm going to hit B for brush again, and then I'm going to grab my clay buildup brush. Now what you'll notice is if I hit C to isolate them, it pops up with the hotkey. So get used to like looking at these. So I'm going to hit B for brush, and what I'm going to do is just kind of go around like this, and I'm just going around and just adding nice little striations, kind of like what a pumpkin would have. Put one in between here, and I can go a little bit wider. And I'm gonna go all the way around my pumpkin, adding these, and then I'm gonna pause the video right now so it doesn't get too long. so you can see what where I end up. Alright, so you can see here that we've added some nice striations, and just kind of went around the pumpkin, sort of doing something like this. Alright, and if I go around, you'll notice I just added a bunch of stuff. It doesn't look quite like a pumpkin yet. So what we're going to do in the next video is we're going to go ahead and start to um, go a little bit higher and learn how to subdivide this so we get a little bit more geometry to play with.